So hello and welcome back, dear all students, to another video tutorial from Genome Biotech. And as always, I'm your host, Dr. Nitin Wahi. In today's topic of talk, we would be talking about the amino acid synthesis. So we are going to initiate from today about the metabolism of the amino acid. That how does the metabolism of amino acid takes place, and what is this amino acid metabolism, and how does this amino acid metabolism occurs in a cell. Okay, so we would be talking about the amino acid metabolism, then what is this amino acid metabolism and how does this amino acid metabolism occurs in the cell. You know that there are two different categories of amino acids. Amino acid can be basically categorized into two different types, that is essential and non-essential amino acids. All those amino acids that can be biosynthesized in our body are said to be the non-essential amino acids. That means these amino acids need not to be obtained from food, as they can be biosynthesized in our body. So they are said to be non-essential amino acids. Others are said to be essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are the one which are being required in the form of food. Okay, so these amino acids are being required as the constituent of the food, then they are said to be the essential amino acids in nature. Okay, we can classify the amino acids into essential and non-essential. So that would be the classification for all the 20 standard amino acids. Usually in your scientific world, we still call it as 20 amino acid, but now it is proven that it is 22 amino acid after the discovery of selenocysteine and that of pyrrolysine. Okay, now we are going to classify these into non-essential and essential amino acid. But how to remember them? The essential and non-essential amino acids can be effectively remembered by studying a trick. That is, you can remember the name of the 10 essential name of the essential amino acid by using the trick, that is PVT, Tim Hall never argues. Whereas in this case, the P in PVT stands for phenylalanine, which has a chemical makeup that constitutes a big side chain. Okay, V stands for valine, T stands for threonine. Okay, 3T stands for threonine, and so on. Isoleucine, methionine, histidine, alanine. So all these are the one that are being essentially required. So you can remember all the different types of essential amino acids by using a trick that is referred to as a PVT Tim Hall. Look at this particular trick. This is PVT Tim Hall. T stands for threonine. This is phenylalanine, valine, threonine, tryptophan, isoleucine, methionine. So PVT Tim Hall never argues can be used to remember the essential amino acids. So the essential amino acids can be effectively remembered by this particular trick. But see, what is being asked in CSIR net and other entrance examination is not always about the essential and the non-essential amino acid. There are two amino acids which are partially essential. For example, arginine and histidine. They are always being asked in the CSIR entrance examination. So these are the most important of among all the different types of amino acid. One is referred to as the arginine, another one is referred to as the histidine. There is one that is referred to as the arginine, and there is another one that is commonly referred to as the histidine. These are the two amino acids that are semi-essential. That means these are essential in the case of infants, but as we become adult, so they become non-essential in nature. These amino acids are essential in the case of infants. That is why these are being asked, okay, extensively. Now, when you look at the structure of the amino acid, you came to know that within the structure of the amino acid, there is an amino group, there is a carboxylic group which is present, and there is a hydrogen atom and a side chain. So we can say that how does the amino acid will be biosynthesized? The amino acids will be biosynthesized by using the amino group. The amino group is being incorporated into amino acid and then into a variety of biomolecules, including nucleotide. Two amino acids, glutamate and glutamine, provides the critical entry point. Glutamate is the source of amino group for most other amino acids through transamination reaction. It is the one that will be donating the amino group. This is very important, that how does glutamate and glutamine act? How does glutamate and glutamine act? Now, glutamate and glutamine act through a cyclic pathway that is referred to as glutamate glutamine cycle. Okay, now this is very important, so I will have to explain it by taking a whiteboard. Please do have some patience. Okay, now in this whiteboard I am trying to explain it to you that how does glutamate and glutamine work. Glutamate has an amino group present. Glutamate as well as the glutamine have an amino group present within their structure. Let me take the structures of these molecules. Glutamate, and probably if I can copy those structures, it would be easier for me. Just a second, else it would be difficult to draw. I have copied an image. Just a second. The image won't come. Okay, see this. What is going to happen in the case of glutamate? If there is a cyclic pathway that is being operated. This is glutamate. Okay, and there is another group that is present. That is referred to as glutamine. Okay, glutamine. Glutamine. Please do excuse me for the spellings and other type of things. What is this here? Glutamate. Here I'm going to take glutamine. Okay. Now what is going to happen in this cyclic manner? Glutamate. I've taken both the places glutamate. Now glutamate can be get converted into glutamine, M-I-N-E. Glutamate can get converted into glutamine by taking an amino group. So amino groups which are being liberated in the case of transamination reactions are being taken by glutamate, and then it gets converted into glutamine. You must have remembered the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan trucks and vehicles that used to come to your home, okay, daily in the morning. So that Swachh Bharat Abhiyan vehicle usually carries all the excess dust, dirt, and our litter of the house from one place to the another. So glutamate act as that cart in which you throw all the waste materials, and then it gets converted into glutamine. Okay, so it will be an empty cart, and then it will be converting it into glutamine. So glutamate getting converted into glutamine is by the addition of amino group. And when the glutamine donates its amino group, as it donates its amino group, then this glutamine again gets converted into glutamate. So such type of cyclic reaction which takes place is referred to as the glutamate glutamine cycle. Okay, this is the glutamate glutamine cycle that operates, and it helps in clearing the excess nitrogenous waste which is present in the body. It helps in clearing, just a second, it helps in clearing the excess nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia ions from the body, from one side of the body, from one side of the body, and is involved in the biosynthesis of new amino acids, and this will lead to the biosynthesis of new amino acids, because in another transamination reaction this amino group will be donated to then alpha keto acid, and when it will react with an alpha keto acid, then it will form another amino acid. For example, if this group is going to react with any alpha keto acid, for example alpha keto glutarate, then it will get converted into glutamate. Reacts with alpha keto acid to form amino acids. Okay, this will lead to the production of amino acid within the structure. Okay, so that's important. Now let us again share with you all about the Pathfinder. Now, there are two principal means by which ammonium ions are incorporated into amino acid and eventually into other metabolites. Reductive amination of the alpha keto acids. The one mechanism by which you can incorporate the amino group is by reductive amination of the alpha keto acid. You can reduce the alpha keto acid by adding an amino group. When you will add an amino group to the alpha keto acid, then reductive amination will take place and this alpha keto acid will get converted into amino acid. This is what I was telling you in this particular reaction that I was informing you. Alpha keto acid can form amino acid while reaction with the amino group. The same is also given in the book that is referred to as Lippincott. But we would be talking about the same here also. See alpha ketoglutarate. Alpha ketoglutarate, which is an intermediate compound of the Krebs cycle. You should have read about this particular compound, which comes at the fifth or the sixth position in the Krebs cycle. Alpha ketoglutarate reacts with the amino group. As it reacts with the amino group, and then the amino group will be transferred to it. As amino group is being transferred to its surface, then this alpha ketoglutarate will get converted into another molecule, and that molecule is referred to as the glutamate. So it will lead to the formation of the structure of glutamate molecule. Okay, so this is how glutamate molecule could be produced. Please listen here. Okay, there would be the production of glutamate molecule and a water molecule will be released. The NADPH, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, NADPH, is an energy-rich compound that catalyzes this particular reaction. It is the compound that would be catalyzing this particular reaction for the reaction of alpha ketoglutarate with the ammonium ion and will lead to the biosynthesis of a molecule that is referred to as the glutamate. In eukaryote, this reductive amination is actually a minor pathway and it occurs in the mitochondria. It is the one that occurs in the case of mitochondria. Glutamate dehydrogenase is an unusual enzyme. It does not discriminate between NADH and NADPH. Again, another question which was being asked in the previous entrance examinations, that is about the glutamate dehydrogenase enzyme. Glutamate dehydrogenase enzyme is another enzyme that is an specific enzyme in nature because it is a very special enzyme in nature because it does not differentiate between the NADH and NADPH. That is why it is so special enzyme. Okay, now please listen here. See, the first process that I have informed you of is the reductive amination of alpha keto acid. You reduce the alpha keto acid, convert the alpha keto acid into a amino acid, and that amino acid will be referred to as the glutamate. Now, how does this amino acid will be produced? By addition of an amino group. When you will add an amino group, then alpha ketoglutarate will get converted into glutamate, as well as a production of a water molecule is also going to take place. Similarly, what is going to happen? Ammonium ions are also incorporated into cell metabolites by the formation of glutamine, the amide of glutamate. This amination reaction is catalyzed by glutamine synthetase. Glutamine synthetase is another important enzyme. Now, this glutamine synthetase acts as an scavenger because it can absorb the excess amount of ammonium ions. Okay, glutamate acts as an scavenger. It can absorb excess amount of the ammonium ions, and when excess amount of the ammonium ions are being absorbed in the case of glutamate, then glutamate gets converted into a amino acid, and this amino acid is referred to as the glutamine amino acid. So this reaction takes place in the presence of an enzyme, and that enzyme is referred to as glutamine synthase. This is the glutamine synthase enzyme that is present. Here you can find this is the glutamine synthase enzyme. Glutamine synthase enzyme works in the presence of ATP. Okay, and what about the reductive amination? Reductive amination is also a non-spontaneous process. It also requires energy in the form of NADPH plus H positive. So both these processes require energy. Okay, so whenever you are performing reductive amination, this is an energy expensive process. It is a non-spontaneous, it is a non-spontaneous energy expensive process, okay, in which the energy is being expended. Okay, so this is referred to as reductive amination. There is another type of reaction that can take place that can lead to the biosynthesis of amino acid, and the other reaction that leads to the biosynthesis of amino acid is referred to as transamination reaction. Now, how does transamination reactions takes place? Okay, so that we will have to see. Now see, the next part is transamination. Before that, we can also look here. The same enzyme as there is glutamine synthetase. So there is another enzyme that is referred to as glutamate synthase. Now glutamate synthase is an enzyme that will lead to the biosynthesis of glutamate. But how does glutamate biosynthesis takes place? Glutamate biosynthesis takes place when glutamine reacts with alpha ketoglutarate, when glutamine reacts with alpha ketoglutarate, and when both of these compounds reacts with each other in the presence of another chemical, in the presence of another enzyme. That enzyme is referred to as the glutamate synthase. The reaction takes place and it will lead to the biosynthesis of the glutamate molecule. This is third reaction. Again, what is going to happen? This is reductive amination. This is reductive amination that is taking place. See this. This is reductive amination. A reductive amination means a compound is being reduced because the amino group has been added to it. As when the amino group is being added to a particular compound, then this compound is going to be present in its reduced form. This is the reduced form. Alpha ketoglutarate getting converted into glutamate. Another one is glutamine getting converted into alpha ketoglutarate. Supposing you want to ask anything, please do ask your query. If you want to ask anything in any reaction, you are not able to understand this it up, you can ask me up. Okay, use the chat box. Another one is referred to as transamination reaction. Now transamination is a completely different reaction. To get an insight into the transamination reaction, we must look at the Lippincott. Now, before moving to Lippincott, let me just tell you that transamination is a reaction in which the amino group from one amino acid is being transferred to the keto group of another alpha keto acid, forming a new amino acid and forming a new alpha keto acid. Okay, there is a query. Finally, someone asked something. Just a second. I'm not getting the query. If there is a query, please do write once more. So can you please explain about third reaction again? Please always mention the name of the enzyme that you were talking about, which is first, which is third. You're talking about probably about this particular reaction because this is the third reaction. Okay, so reductive amination, as I told you, is a process in which the amino group is being added. In this reaction, amino acid is being added. So this is reductive amination. Okay, this is reductive amination, amino group added. In this reaction, amino group is being added, so this is also a part of reductive amination. Now look here, what is being done here? Here also the amino group is being added because see this, what is going to happen? There is no amino group over this alpha ketoglutarate and there are two amino groups which are present over this glutamine. One amino group will be transferred from glutamine to alpha ketoglutarate, forming a glutamate molecule and converting glutamine also into glutamate. So basically there are two glutamate molecules which are being produced. Okay, so here also the amine group is being transferred. So this is also an example of reductive amination reaction. And because glutamate is being biosynthesized, the enzyme name is glutamate synthase. Glutamine is being biosynthesized, the enzyme name is glutamine synthetase. Okay, and because here there is the glutamate which is being biosynthesized, but whenever in the case of biochemistry, if there is a functional group which has been altered, then you will be using always NADPH. And whenever you use NADPH, you use the term that is called as dehydrogenase. Now, what is the basic thing? Why is in certain reaction dehydrogenase NADH is being used? Why in other FADH is being used? NADH is being used in those dehydrogenation reaction in which the functional group is being altered. See this, was the functional group which has been altered. When the functional group will be altered, then the enzyme that would be used is referred to as dehydrogenase. And always remember, FADH plus H positive will always be used. FADH plus H positive. DH plus H positive can only be used in those chemical reactions in which the functional group is not being transferred, is not being altered, but only a double bond is being introduced. I knew that majority of you know this particular compound that is being formed in the case of Krebs cycle. Can you recognize this particular compound? Which is this particular compound that has been produced? After succinate, then there was fumarate. Then after the fumarate, succinate, fumarate, malate, oxaloacetate. So fumarate getting converted into malate in the presence of malate dehydrogenase. Malate dehydrogenase was there, and there was a double bond which was being introduced, leading to the liberation of FADH plus H positive enzyme, FADH plus H positive metabolite. This metabolite is being released only when a double bond is being produced in a biochemical reaction. This is the basis of biochemistry. It is of very importance. It is of high importance. Okay. Now moving forward, I'm just rubbing this out. Okay. Now moving forward, what we are going to look at is another reaction that is called as transamination reaction. Transamination reaction is the type of reaction in which the alpha keto acid gets converted into an amino acid, and the amino acid gets converted into an alpha keto acid. Alpha keto acid gets converted into an amino acid. Okay. And an amino acid gets converted into another alpha keto acid. Then such type of reaction is referred to as transamination reaction. Transamination reaction takes place in the presence of a chemical compound that is referred to as the transaminase. Transamination reaction always occurs in the presence of transaminases. Okay. So we would be looking how does this transamination reaction takes place, what happens in the case of the transamination reactions. So let us look at the book that is Lippincott, and let us talk about the transaminases. Let me look at the transaminase reactions. Can I look at the active site of the enzyme? If I can find it at the active site of the enzyme, it would be great. Just a second. No, we didn't get it. Just a second. I knew that there is a diagram which is given in Lippincott, and that diagram is very, very important. If we can get it to transaminases. Okay, this is that particular diagram. Let me enlarge this particular diagram for you all. Now see this. This is a transaminase. Okay. This is referred to as the GOAT, glutamate oxaloacetate transaminases. Okay. So those are the different types of transaminases that are going to work, and then how these transaminases work, that we have to see. See, each and every transaminase in its active site possess a residue, possess a vitamin which is referred to as pyridoxamine or pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Now this pyridoxal 5-phosphate has a unique character. This pyridoxal 5-phosphate is the one that can actually bind to the amino group and when it could bind to the amino group, then it could cause the liberation or transfer of the amino group from one amino acid to the keto acid. See, this is an amino acid. See, this is an amino acid which is present. Okay. Now see, this is an amino acid. When this is an amino acid that is present, it will transfer the amino group from one amino acid to the keto site of another, to the ketonic group of another alpha keto acid, converting this alpha keto acid into an amino acid and transforming this amino acid into an keto alpha keto acid. Such type of reactions are called as transamination reactions. These are the reactions that are referred to as the transamination reactions. Okay, so let me see how does these transamination reactions helps you out. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate will have this amino group. The bond which is being present in between the amino group and the methyl group here is referred to as the Schiff's base. This is the bond which is present, and this bond is referred to as the Schiff's base. SHIFFS. Schiff's base. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is the bond that has been produced, and this bond is commonly referred to as the Schiff's base. Let us now have a look at the Pathfinder. Priyanshu and Trishla, are you feeling any problem? Because majority of the students, I don't know why these students are not there. Okay, so Trishla has also left. So there are 2 Trishla now in our class. Great. Okay, now please look forward. See, we were talking about Pathfinder. So let me just clear the annotations. Now look here. There is an accepting alpha keto acid, and there is an amino acid. Then what will happen? This transaminase enzyme will have pyridoxal 5-phosphate at its active site. That pyridoxal 5-phosphate will acquire this amino group. That pyridoxal 5-phosphate will acquire this amino group and will transfer this amino group to the acceptor alpha amino acid. When it will transfer it to the acceptor alpha amino acid, it will convert the alpha keto acid into a new amino acid and forming along with it an alpha keto glutarate. So this type of reaction is commonly referred to as the transamination reaction. Okay, so there is the transamination reaction that is being produced. Okay, now just have a reading, because there are 2-3 important points in this transamination reaction. The enzyme which is involved in the case of the transamination reaction are referred to as the amidotransferases. Okay, so if there is a transaminases or amidotransferases, how they are being named? They are being named on the basis of their substrate molecules. See, this is how this is happening. Okay, the groups are being transferred. The name of the enzyme will be glutamate alpha keto glutarate transaminases. Okay, I would be repeating that particular diagram, no problem. Now see this. Looking at the same thing through Lippincott. In the Lippincott, we know that the enzyme that is referred to as transaminases is a modified enzyme. It contains a side chain present within itself, and that side chain which is present in this enzyme is that of pyridoxal 5-phosphate. This is the compound that forms specific bond, that is, it leads to the formation of Schiff's base. Sorry, this is the compound that is present. This would be bounded to the enzyme. Okay, the enzyme is being bounded to it with the help of Schiff's base. Please do correct yourself. This is the Schiff's base. SHIFS. Schiff's base. Schiff's base is a chemical compound, is a chemical bond which is being produced in between the lysine amino group and the pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Okay, this Schiff's base is highly important in catalyzing the reaction of the transaminases. through it is only through these shifts base the transaminase can catalyze its own reaction. Okay. Now, how does this transaminase catalyze the reaction? This pyridoxal 5-phosphate will uptake the amino group from the amino acid, and after uptaking the amino group from the amino acid, it will transfer it to the keto acid. See, it has taken the amino group from here, and now it will transfer this amino group to this particular carbon atom, transforming the alpha keto acid into an amino acid and interconverting an amino acid into an alpha keto acid. Please just look here. Just look here. See, these are the reactions. Glutamate getting converted into oxaloacetate and alpha ketoglutarate getting converted into aspartate. So those are the two different chemical reactions that are being produced. Okay. Now let us write a note in Pathfinder so that you can understand it up that what is this compound called that is referred to as the Schiff's base. So what is a Schiff's base that we have to see? Okay. And just trying to find it out in your Lippincott so that I can give a valid example to you. No, I can't, but this is the pyridoxal 5-phosphate which is present. Okay. Now let me provide a note to you in Pathfinder. Oh, sorry. This is the name of the enzyme, that is aminotransferase. So probably this reaction is clear to you all. The note that has to be written by you all, I am writing that particular note only in front of you. There are two questions which have been asked. First, the active site of the active site of transaminases contains a vitamin called pyridoxal 5-phosphate PO4 phosphate, which helps in transferring the amino group, the NH2 group, from one amino acid to the alpha keto acid, converting it into a amino acid and an amino acid into keto acid and an amino acid into keto acid. This is how transamination works. This is the first question that was being asked. Another very important question that is being asked is about Schiff's base. That what is this Schiff's base? Okay, now please look here. The active site of transaminases contains a lysine residue, LYS, and lysine is R. That means it is the basic amino acid which remains bounded to pyridoxal 5-phosphate via a Schiff's base. Schiff's base. Now, what is this Schiff's base? When lysine amino group NH2 group reacts with COOH group. When lysine amino group reacts with COOH group, the structure which is being produced is referred to as the Schiff's base. Okay, just a second. If you can read it out. Group to form Schiff's base. This is the Schiff's base that is being produced. I'm just going to enlarge this particular line if I can. See, this is what is going to happen. The active site of the transaminase enzyme contain a lysine amino acid containing group which remains bounded to the pyridoxal 5-phosphate via Schiff's base. When the lysine amino group react with the carboxyl group of another pyridoxal 5-phosphate, then it will lead to the formation of Schiff's base. This Schiff's base is essentially required to maintain the stability of the particular complex. Okay, the stability of the complex is being maintained with the help of Schiff's bases. Now moving back. Now, where from the carbon sources are being obtained? So probably you are able to understand transamination reaction. If you have any question, please do ask. Priyanshi, do you have any question? Likita, you were late, but try to come on time. Ankita, any question related to transamination? Trishla, Shalu, you have been inconsistent in several classes. You should attend the lectures regularly. Now, sir, no queries. Thank you. Now, please, moving forward. Now, moving forward, where from the carbon sources arises for the formation of the amino acid. The carbon source for the formation of amino acids arises from several different intermediates of the glycolytic pathway. Now, which are the different intermediate of the glycolytic pathway? See, there are several different intermediates of the glycolytic pathway, and those intermediates are glycerate 3-phosphate, pyruvate, alpha ketoglutarate, oxaloacetic acid, ribose 5-phosphate, phosphoenol pyruvate, and erythrose 4-phosphate. These are the different compounds that are being produced. Now, these different compounds are actually the intermediates which are being produced through the glycolytic pathway. As these compounds are the intermediates that are produced through the glycolytic pathway, so these serve as the carbon source. Okay, they will be the carbon sources in nature. Just removing the annotations and moving forward. Now see, who is the carbon atom donor in the structure of amino acid will determine which type of amino acid is being produced. Now this is typical one. Okay, now see this. Who will contribute the carbon for the formation of amino acid will be kept in a particular family. For example, the glutamate family include all those amino acids in which glutamate act as a carbon donor. If glutamate act as a carbon donor, then those are referred to as glutamate family. For example, glutamate, glutamine, proline, arginine, and other different derives their carbon skeleton from the alpha ketoglutarate molecule. Different compounds derive their carbon skeleton from alpha ketoglutarate. They are being included in glutamate family. Okay. Now, this could be remembered by a trick, that is gap has. The trick is gap has. This remembered trick for remembering the different families by which the carbon skeleton of the amino acid is being contributed. Amino acid carbon skeleton is being contributed by 6 families. That could be remembered by gap has. There has been a gap has been created. Gap has. Okay, G for glutamate, A for aspartate, P for pyruvate, H for histidine, A for aromatic family, and S for serine family. So this is the trick. G for glutamate family, and then you have A for aspartic acid family, aspartate family. Then you have the third one, P for proline family. Now see, which is the most smallest family that is present? Can you tell me which is the most smallest family that is present? Now see, for telling which is the smallest family. Count the number of members that each family is contributing. Okay, the smallest family will be the histidine family, which only contributes single amino acid, that is referred to as the histidine. Okay, so that family contains only a single amino acid. See, ribose 5 phosphate will form a single amino acid, that is referred to as histidine. Please look here. P refers to proline family, and so on and so on. Okay, so you didn't have to remember everything. You just have to know which are the family names that you can remember by the trick gap has. Okay. And then you have to remember which is the smallest family and which is the largest family. The smallest family is that of a chemical compound that is referred to as histidine family. And histidine family is the one that is responsible for the formation of histidine amino acid. It is the one that is responsible for the formation of histidine amino acid. Okay, so histidine will be produced from ribose 5 phosphate. Glucose 6 phosphate will get converted into 3 phosphoglycerate. This 3 phosphoglycerate will get converted into serine. Okay, 3 phosphoglycerate can also give rise to erythrose 4 phosphate. 3 phosphoglycerate can also give rise to phosphoenol pyruvate, citrate. This pyruvate can give rise to the simplest of all amino acids, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine. Similarly, phosphoenol pyruvate, which is also referred to as PEP, can also give rise to 3 amino acids. Those are tryptophan, phenylalanine, and tyrosine amino acids. There is oxaloacetate, which is also referred to as OAA. So I usually call it OA. Okay, so it will lead to the formation of arginine, methionine, threonine, and lysine. You just didn't have to remember anything. You just have to remember one thing, that this histidine family is the smallest of all family. Okay, whereas the largest among the all families is the aspartate family as well as the pyruvate family, because aspartate and pyruvate family are relatively larger in size. Okay, you can see this aspartate family. Aspartate family can give rise to aspartate, aspargine, lysine, methionine, and threonine. So there are 5 members that could give rise to. Okay, whereas the pyruvate family can only give rise to 4 members. So aspartate family is the largest of family among all the amino acids. It is the largest family. Okay, and histidine is the smallest family. So this is of key importance. Questions have been asked. Now see this. Can you just guess what is happening here? See, histidine is being biosynthesized from a compound that is referred to as ribose 5 phosphate. Now, what do you mean by, what is this sugar? This sugar is a ribose sugar. This indicates that in the prehistoric time, when carbohydrates were being produced, then carbohydrates gave rise to amino acids. Okay, so previously the carbohydrate molecules which were being biosynthesized in the cell would have given rise to amino acids. And if you can remember the nucleic acid lecture that I took of you all, okay, except Ishita, okay, she's except Likhita, I have taken that lecture of majority of you. Then you must remember that this ribose 5 phosphate was a precursor of a chemical compound. Can you guess which was the chemical compound which was being formed from this ribose 5 phosphate? Can you guess which was the chemical compound from ribose 5 phosphate? There was an enzyme which was called as GP-RAT. Can you remember the enzyme GP-RAT? The compound was referred to as PRPP, phosphoribosyl pyrophosphate. Phosphoribosyl pyrophosphate. Okay, this one was a compound which was being produced. Do you know that which is this compound? What is the use of this compound? This is the compound that will lead to the biosynthesis of nitrogenous bases. Nitrogenous bases. Where is Priyanshi? Priyanshi, you can't answer these types of questions. These are such an easy questions. I've taught you. Shalu, where are you? You didn't know how this PRPP was biosynthesizing the nitrogenous bases. Ankita, what about you and what Trishla you are studying? This all has been told to you in the nucleic acid chapter with a wonderful story. Please do keep on revising the things at least. Okay? Now you look here. This one was the compound which was being produced. And what was this particular pathway known as? This particular pathway was the pathway for the purine nucleotide biosynthesis. Okay, Priyanshi. Okay, you have answered that. So this led to the synthesis of the nucleic acid. So what you are going to get is that carbohydrate molecules, which were actually ribose sugars, evolved firstly, then the evolution of nitrogenous bases, then the evolution of proteins. That means the prehistoric proof for RNA being the genetic material also comes from the study of amino acid metabolism. See, this is a ribose sugar. Ribose sugar, which can form both amino acid as well as nucleotides, indicates that RNA world hypothesis holds true. Okay, holds true. It is this RNA world hypothesis that holds true. So you must remember this thing. Okay, this is a very classical example of this RNA world hypothesis. Once a question was being asked after giving this structure ribose 5-phosphate, and majority of the students were not able to attempt it. So please do note it down. Take a good note of this particular question. Are you able to understand it up that because ribose 5-phosphate can biosynthesize histidine, it can biosynthesize nucleic acid. So it indicates that ribose sugar prehistorically occurred before the occurrence of both proteins as well as DNA. This clearly proves that RNA world hypothesis holds true. Is this clear to you all? Do you have any query? Do you have any question? You please ask me. If you have any question, please ask me. Okay. Likita, please do revise this out because these things are not so easy. You're not from this particular background. You must revise them out. Okay. So I would be just moving forward now. After this, these are the questions which are being asked. Okay. Now moving forward, what we are going to see? We are going to see another process that is referred to as nitrogen fixation. Now, how does nitrogen fixation occurs? What is nitrogen fixation? Okay, no problem. So how does nitrogen fixation takes place and what is nitrogen fixation and how does this nitrogen fixation occurs? And one thing more, while I was telling you about all these things, see this, you will have to read this particular pages. These 4 different particular pages from Lippincott are of utmost importance. Okay, and anybody among you want any book, you just inform me whether you want PDF of any book. Even if you want the photocopies of books, I can arrange it for you. That's not a problem. There are no issues in arrangement of books and sending those books to you. Okay, that can be done. You just focus upon your studies and keep revising your subjects. Your concept must be improvised after each and every class. If you can't do that, then you are at least not studying. Okay. Now see, this is what these are the 4 pages that you have to read from Lippincott. That is from 248 to 252. That would be your homework. Now we would be talking about the nitrogen fixation. Okay, because this part was the entire metabolic pathway. So I'm just concluding my lecture today here only, so that at least we can start fresh with nitrogen fixation, because we must finish this off tomorrow at the same timing. Now, those students whose syllabus have been left at the back, for example, Likita, yours, and one more, another students, if you want to revise, I will be taking some extra classes and would be informing you. So I'm concluding my class here only. At least you have a revision of all these things. And in tomorrow's lecture, we will be finishing off with this nitrogen fixation. So after this nitrogen fixation, almost your amino acid metabolism is all over. Please do solve the questions from MCQ, as well as the scanned copy of Catalyst has also been provided. Just see this, after this nitrogen fixation, there is only one lecture of catabolism, urea cycle, and then it's all over. Okay, it is all over. It is all finished here. So this entire procedure will be over within 2 or 3 lectures. So this is Thursday, Friday. Friday, this chapter will be completely finished. So you'll have your 2 chapters being finished, nucleic acid and this amino acids. So you please keep on revising, and at least while these steps involves all the different types of reactions. So at least keep revising those reactions. Read the entire nitrogen fixation so that we can discuss the nitrogen fixation tomorrow at the same timing of 8 o'clock. I'm concluding my class here only so that you can revise it out. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, students. I'm just turning off the recordings.